What is up, guys? My name is FM Sorcerer, and there are many different worlds in the Spiral that we have never ever been to that I'm going to be exploring today and showing you guys the info that we have been given throughout the storyline of the game. So by now, everyone knows that the next world is going to be Empyrea, but just because we haven't been there yet, it is still going to be on the list, and basically Empyrea is going to be a sky-themed world with purple and pinkish clouds and sky squids and links to titans, and it's going to be a really cool world. Now, the other two unseen worlds in the third arc are the Hidden Lands and the Broken Shores. The Hidden Lands, I think, is going to be more of a Native American themed world with sort of an ancient culture or a lost city, something like that. And the Broken Shores, we really have no idea what this one could be, but if you go to the Fire Classroom in the Arcanum, there are some pictures of a lava themed world, sort of a Broken Shores and lava lakes, which could be the Broken Shores. So those are the other two unknown worlds from the third arc. Now, this next world is a bit of a wild card just because it is a Pirate 101 world, but it is still going to be on this list just because it is a world in a spiral that we have never seen. Now, it's called Dorado, and it's made of nothing but gold, and no one has ever been there except for Marco Polo and his crew, and most of his crew were actually lost, so it is very unknown, and the map to the world was actually scrambled up in a bunch of bits and pieces that are all throughout the spiral, which could mean that maybe our wizards will one day get to travel there if we can find a way to make it, and maybe Wiz can have a crossover with Pirate. It would be really interesting to see something like this happen, especially since it is still in the spiral, and the spiral is connected to Pirate and Wiz. Now, this next world is a very interesting one. It's another Pirate 101 world, but what makes it so interesting is the fact that we could actually visit in Wiz. Now, it's called Rajah, and it was mentioned in Pirate 101 as being an Indian type world with tigers under Marleybonian rule. So it is a world that is like Marleybone, but with tigers. Now, there is a chance that we could visit it eventually because during the last KI Live, one of the hosts, Friendly Necromancer, brought up that one of the next worlds will begin with an R. That's the same as Rajah, but he could have meant that the fifth letter of the next world will be an R, like Imperia, but that doesn't mean that Rajah might not still be a world that we eventually visit, and it would be really cool because a world with tigers would be an awesome place to see. Here in the Life Classroom, you can see the world Wellaru, which is where Xander, the teacher, is from, and it's an Australian-themed world. You can see some pictures up here on the wall. It is actually kind of a vacant land sort of thing, but it looks really interesting, just how large those rock formations are, and just the way it looks, the misty clouds that you can see, and sort of maybe a mountain in the background right there. It definitely is sort of potential there for a fourth arc world that we could visit one day. Now, this next world is definitely my favorite world that we have never seen in Wizard 101, but I come here to the Elephant Graveyard in Zafaria because it is actually the first and only time that we ever hear anything about this world. It's called Alazhar, and Queen Alyssa, the queen of the elephants, tells us about it. It is described as a lost city, and that's all we know about it. Now, I believe that it could be the Hidden Lands, or it could be in the Hidden Lands, because if it is so old that a spirit came from there, that should give you an idea that it's somewhere hidden, like in the Hidden Lands. And also the fact that she was a queen could mean that it's sort of a monarchy, sort of an idea of what the culture might be. She is an elephant, so there could be a wide variety of different types of animals there, such as bears or deer, sort of like we see in the Balance Classroom in the Arcanum, which, like I said earlier, I think that is the Hidden Lands, and a lost city like Alazhar would be located within the Hidden Lands. So Alazhar is definitely my favorite unseen world in Wizard 101. Now, the next unseen world is one called Iago, and I'm here in Wisteria because this is the only time it was ever mentioned. Now, we hear about it in a dungeon called the Tower of the Helephant, and the Helephant boss tells us that it was his home, and it was a space and fire themed world with star fields. Now, we've never had a space world in Wiz. The only thing that even comes close to that is the Arcanum, which isn't even a world, so going here would definitely be a fresh, new, different kind of experience, and I could see it being a fourth arc world, especially when you consider that Imperia was also mentioned in Wisteria like Iago, and that is going to be a world that we're going to in the third arc, so it's definitely room there for a future expansion, and KingsIsle leaves behind these Easter eggs with a purpose, not just for no reason. This next world is called Nodor, and it is only ever mentioned in Avalon as being a brisk, cold world, home of the mammoths and Morrie. We don't know if it is its own world or a location in Avalon, but I think it's safe to say that it's its own world since Avalon is not cold and it doesn't have any mammoths. But I don't think we will have this as a 4th arc world since we already have too many icy themed worlds in the game. Could be an expansion, which would be pretty fitting to have. Now this next world is called Caramel or Candyland, and it is the home of the ice professor in Wizard City, Lydia Greyrose. Now it is described as running throughout the brisk lands of Nodor and Pinguania, which is the home of the penguins. Nodor is what we just talked about, so that could be proof that Nodor is its own world on its own. But Candyland is said to run between those two locations, Nodor and Pinguania, and be a brisk, cold, icy world with lots of candy islands, chocolate rivers, stuff like that. So if Wiz ever has us visit another ice-themed world in the game, it should definitely be Candyland, since that sounds like the most interesting one, and we could find out more about Lydia Greyrose's backstory and some other things that have to do with the ice school just in general. Now this next unseen world is called Gobbler Tin. It is the original home of every single gobbler that lives in Wizard City. All we know about it is that it was overrun by witches and they had to flee here. Definitely sounds like it could be some sort of interesting expansion world or a side quest or a dungeon, something like that. In fact, I think I might make a top 5 expansion world ideas based off of areas that we don't have much information on in the game. Now this next world is definitely an interesting one. It's called Castle Corobus, and it's where the last Kandavasi took place before Darkmoor. A Kandavasi is basically a challenge between someone who has a vendetta with another person, like Malistaire had with us in Darkmoor. It usually causes a bloodbath, so it's a very dark and violent thing. And apparently this was a world that was more than likely French culture, and a Fire King named Pharamond brought ruin to it. We have no idea where it is or what has become of Castle Corobus right now, which is what makes it such a mystery. Pinguin Dona is another Iceland, and this one has frozen shores. It's very close to the location of Lydia Greyrose's home, Candyland, and it is also the home of the penguins. It's probably French culture like Polaris. There is a possibility that Pinguin Dona was just the former name of Walviksburg, but we do not know that for sure, so it could be its own world. There are a lot of frozen worlds that we have never seen in this game, and continuing on with that trend, we have Tundaria, a tundra world, home of the polar bears, and we have Walzakistan, home of the walruses. Now on our way to the peaks in Polaris, this captain right here uses the phrase, "What in the 70 seas was that?" Now this could just be an expression and I could be overlooking it, or it could be a world, you never know. But 70 seas sounds like, you guessed it, a world made of nothing but water, sort of like Celestia, except this is literally just straight water, no land, no aquarium, no nothing. It's just straight up a huge ocean, 70 seas deep. So it would be interesting if this was maybe an expansion world or a place that we get to visit in the 4th arc. And finally, we have the original home world of the Crockett Opians. Similar to Gobbler Tin, the Crockett Opians had to flee to Crockett Opia because their world was destroyed by a plague. This is yet another world that we have never seen and don't have much information on, so it does count as an unseen world. But I hope you guys did enjoy this vid. There are many unseen places in the spiral that we are yet to visit, and it's really an interesting thing to talk about once you start theorizing, looking into all the Easter eggs that they leave behind for us. But like I said in the video, I could make a vid about the top 5 expansion worlds / dungeons that we could have in the game based off of some of the places that you saw in this video. But the next vid will be on Empyrea Spell Ideas, so if you're excited for that, make sure to leave a like, and I will see you guys in the next vid. Peace.